Hola clase. So what I'm going to do for this ed puzzle is just show you the exam. You do not actually have to turn this ed puzzle in. It's just a brief overview of the exam. So for the first section, the first page, you're just going to listen to the audio and choose which of the three makes sense for the multiple choice. For the second page, it's actually not pictured here, but you are going to need to know your adjetivos and the opposites. So for example, if I have like antipático, you need to know that simpático is the opposite. If I have rico, you want to know that pobre is the opposite. So you want to study your adjectives that we studied in the first chapter. This is page 3, and for this page, you have a drop-down menu. This is all the family vocabulary, so you want to definitely review that. So for here, we have, sí, en mi familia, tienes una familia muy grande, ¿verdad? It says, sí, en mi familia somos tres. And then you want to decide, is it primos, hermanos, or sobrinos, and y cuatro hermanas. So here we're saying that we are 3 brothers and 4 sisters. So it would be hermanos there. So you're going to just study, same with the other ones, it's all just family vocabulary. Here on page 4, there's going to be very basic questions like, ¿Qué tiempo hace en enero en Buenos Aires? And so you're just going to basically look at multiple choice or matching and decide which of the basic questions are being answered on the other side. So you just basically drag across and just know some of your basic questions. For this section, it's the house vocabulary. So it's the vocabulary that we learned in Capítulo 4. And so what you want to do is you want to look el baño and you want to tell me what's in el baño. So we have la estufa, la ducha, or el microondas. So you do need to know your vocabulary to answer that. And since la ducha is the shower, that would be the most logical response. And you have other ones that are very similar to that. For this next page, you're going to have to make sentences with ir plus a plus infinitive. So you definitely want to know the conjugations for ir. So remember that ir means to go by itself. So you would say like yo voy, I go, tú vas, you go, you do go, él va, he or she goes or is going, vamos, we go, vais, y'all go, and then van is ellos or ustedes, you all go. Like, remember, vais is more Spain, y'all, and then van is ustedes is the y'all if you're in South America. So remember, when we use ir plus a plus infinitive, we're saying things that you're going to do. So I'm going to give you a place. So if I say like en el parque, and then you have to say what you're going to do or what he's going to. There's going to be a subject here, so you might have like to. So we want to say like, oh, tú vas. Remember, we could have the to there, but we don't really need it. Yo. Here we do need it because it could be he or she or the dog or my parents or my parent. We don't need the nosotros, but we can have it. But if you see nosotros, you know we need vamos. This is vosotros. We don't need it though. And usually we do need it with ellos. So we need it with él, ella, usted, or ellos, ellas, ustedes. We need the subject pronouns there. So here we would say, en el parque tú vas a, so we have that ir a, tú vas a correr. You're going to run, right? And say that I said like in la casa, and I have yo. What am I going to do in the house? Yo voy a cocinar, right? So those are just sentences. You do not need to know your ir plus a plus infinitive in order to do that. Something you're going to do in the future. You have to conjugate that first ir, like voy and vas and va and vamos, vais, van, plus your a, and then you use the infinitive like correr, cocinar. You do not conjugate that second verb. In this section, we are looking at so in our model here, we have bancos, haber en la ciudad. So we're trying to ask a question that relates to the answer. So it says, en esta ciudad hay 6 bancos. So essentially, we want to ask, how many bancos ¿Cuántos bancos hay en la ciudad? And we have, en esta ciudad hay 6 bancos. So we need to be able to use the word cuántos to indicate how many. So you do need to know which question word you're going to use there. So for número 4 here, the answer, we want to look at the answer first. La iglesia está a la izquierda del correo. So we're saying that the church is to the left of the mail, or the mail or the post office. So what would our question be here? So in this case, we would say, again, we have el banco está a la izquierda del correo. So essentially, we want to ask, where is the bank? So to say where, we say ¿dónde? ¿Dónde está? ¿Dónde está el banco? So say that we had a different question. Say that we had, tengo 5 clases. So in this case, we would want to say, how many classes do you have? And in that case, it wouldn't be cuánto, it would be cuántas, because clases is feminine and plural. So cuántas clases tienes? And in this case, I say, tengo 5 clases. We'll do one more. Estudio español. So here we want to say, what do you study? We could say, ¿qué estudias? Right? So we have que. So you need to know your question words to be able to ask questions in that section. In this next page, we have gustar, and we're pretty familiar with this. We did this in our last chapter. So, este semestre tengo una clase de literatura española. Esta clase, we want to say, I like it a lot. So remember, we use gusta when there's one thing that you like, and gustan if there's 2. So in this case, we would say, me gusta mucho. ¿Qué clases? So what classes do you like? So in this case, remember, we have to use me or te or le for el, ella, usted, or nos for us, or os for y'all, or les for they. So in this case, it would be te. And then because we're talking about clases, it should be gustan. What classes do you like? And you're going to do the same thing. If you have profesora, you want to say le. If it's ellos, you're going to say les. In this next section, you're going to be given sentences, and you're just going to have to tell where the different rooms are in the house, and you need to know your prepositions of place. So like a la izquierda de, to the left of, a la derecha de, detrás de, behind. So you want to review your prepositions of place to know where the places are in the house. This is definitely one of the hardest sections because you have to not only know how to conjugate the verbs here, but you have to decide which one. So in this case, it says mi familia y yo, my family and I. So remember, yo plus anybody else is nosotros. So mi familia y yo. We're trying to say that we unidos are very united. So would we say mi familia y yo somos muy unidos, or would we say tenemos muy unidos? So you have to pick one of those. So in this case, it would be somos. So you have to actually write out the verb there. So you want to be able to conjugate ser. And I could just do a quick review of that with you now. So remember, ser is to be permanent, like to be nice, or to be a woman, or to be a student, things that are more permanent. You also have the verb estar, which is to be, but that's more like with location or emotions, like to be sad, estoy triste, or bien. That's the more temporary to be. Health, to be sick, estoy enferma. This is more permanent, right? So we have like professions or nationalities. So that's going to be soy, eres, I am, you are, es, he is, somos, we are, sois, y'all are, and then son, they are. And then estar, you have estoy, I am, like estoy en la escuela or la universidad. Estás, you are. Tú estás en el trabajo, at work. Mi madre está triste. My mom is sad. Estamos, we are. Estáis, y'all are. And están, they are. And then tener, to have. So we have tengo, I have. Tienes, you have. Tiene, he or she has. Tenemos, we have. Tenéis, y'all have. And tienen. So if you want to write these down just to have them in case you forgot them. But those are some of your verbs. So in this case, we would say somos muy unidos y siempre. So in this case, we always buscamos tiempo para estar juntos. We always look for time. So you do need to know what buscar and preguntar means. Those are our AR verbs from chapter 3. So buscar is to look for, and then preguntar is to ask. So siempre buscamos tiempo. So we always look for time to be together because we're still talking about nosotros here. We haven't changed the subject. But then this next one, we have, por ejemplo, yo, and then it's going to be, and remember, almorzar is one of our verbs that changes from O to UE. So that's not a regular one. Remember, almorzar, it gets conjugated similarly, but we change the O to a UE in all of the forms except for nosotros and vosotros. So we have almuerzo, right? Almuerzas, that O to UE. Almuerza. And then it's almorzamos over here. We don't do that O to UE outside of the boot. Almorzáis. And then almuerzan. It's back in the boot. So we have that O to UE. So in that case, that's one of our irregular verbs. Yo, dos o tres veces. Okay, so en el gimnasio, so would we run or eat lunch? It's probably yo corro. I run with my mom every week. So you definitely want to study your verbs. There's not like vivir and llegar, to live and to arrive. Those are both regular. Tomar, ir is, ir. Trabajar, to work. So these are all ones that you know. Recibir and hablar, those are regular verbs. The only one that I'm seeing so far is almorzar, which is the O to UE, but all of the rest of them should be, preferir. Preferir is one of our E to IE verbs. So in that case, we're going to say preferir. We're going to go over this today in class. I'm recording this before our Tuesday class. This is an E to IE. So instead of O to UE, it's E to IE. So in this case, it would be in the second E is what changes. Prefiero, not prefero. Prefieres. Prefire. Right, so that E gets changed. And then outside of the boot, remember, it's normal. So preferimos. Right? Preferis. And then prefiero, and we're back in the boot. We have that boot. So that's another one that's E to IE. So you can use these notes during your test if you need to. The last 2 pages of the test, there's going to be a reading with some questions. That's just a general reading. So you'll just see that when you get to the test and you're answering the questions or multiple choice. And then the last page is a writing section. And you're going to be talking about yourself and your classes and what you like and don't like, and just similar to the compositions that we did in class. So if you want to just review those before you come in or before you begin your test, then that would be perfect to get you prepared. So those are the sections of the test. I think it's pretty straightforward. You do not have a culture section on this. So there's it's a little shorter than normal, but it does cover the 4 chapters. And you know exactly what's going to be on it. You've even seen sections of it. That was the actual test that I was showing in some of those pictures. So buena suerte. It's been my pleasure to be your teacher. I hope to see you again in 102 or soon. And I'm always here to help if you need anything in Español or anything else. Muchas gracias, estudiantes. Please let me know if you need any help or any questions. Adios.